Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling, and shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today? Well, we had a pretty nice stream. We finished off Imposter Factory. It was a nice sort of like bow tied, I think, on everything. I'm not sure what to talk about this time. And I'm also not sure I'm going to talk about the other thing I was considering talking about, which was Toy Story 5. Today as well. I don't know, maybe I will, you know what? Because I think Toy Story 5, I think how I'd encapsulate it, as I encapsulate Toy Story 4 as well, it's like, it's a good movie. I'm not sure it needed to exist, but I'm not like that upset with it existing, I guess. So good evening everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow it's 9:38 PM on Sunday, July 19th, 2026. I'll warn you before any spoilers or anything for Toy Story. But in general, I think Toy Story 1 I didn't really like, I watched much later. I think Toy Story 2 is the first one I watched, and I was like, this is quite nice. And then Toy Story 3 I watched and I was like, I really like this one. And then I went back to watch Toy Story 1 at some point, and I don't really remember it all that well, to be honest. But it's sort of within my, like, Toy Story 3 I think was definitely much more my time period, and Toy Story 2, like, I don't even remember when Toy Story 2 came out. 2000 maybe? Maybe that's the original one. 1999. So yeah, I was a bit young for when the second and first one came out, but Toy Story 3 when it came out, 2010, I was like, yeah. And I thought Toy Story 3 was a really good sort of way to round everything up. You are, I don't remember your name. Rocket, I did know your name. And then when Toy Story 4 was announced, I was like, okay, interesting. Like, I don't hate it because I think Toy Story has a pretty good track record going, but I was like, I don't really know how we're going to continue it necessarily. But I was like, okay, well, we'll just kind of see what happens. And then I watched Toy Story 4 and I was like, okay, I actually think this is actually a pretty good send-off, all things considered. Like, I think Toy Story 3 was a really good series finale, but Toy Story 4 is a nice sort of wrap-up to Woody's character, I would say. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of Bo Peep in there who has basically been irrelevant, I think, for the first 3, or whatever. Or maybe she has been, I can't really remember. Toy Story 5, I think, is kind of similar in that vein, where watching it, I think it's good. I think it's good. I think it does things pretty well. It's got some like nice sort of nuance in the story. I do think it's... I do think it has flaws, I will say. But I don't think it's that bad, honestly. Like, it's... I think it was a very solid 7 or 8 out of 10. So, like, pretty good. Maybe not the best in the series, but I did like it quite a lot. I would say... I'm not sure if it's quite... maybe it is, I don't know. But it's kind of like what Toy Story 4 was for Woody. It's kind of like Toy Story 5 is for Jessie, is kind of how I describe it. Maybe not entirely. Because it doesn't feel like her plot, like, she's out of the story now, like Woody is. But, I mean, it feels like a really nice conclusion. It was a very Jessie-focused thing. Because if you've seen the trailers for Toy Story 5, you would be like, okay, this is a plot about the toys versus technology, basically. How Toy Story 4 left off, I guess spoilers for that movie, is that Woody is now sort of roaming the outer world while the rest of the toys are with a kid called Bonnie. And Bonnie's getting older. And she gets a lily pad, which is basically like a kid iPad, sort of a kid tablet or whatever. And then you see the trailer and you're going to be like, okay, it's going to be like the toys versus technology, and it's going to be technology's bad, it's making the toys not play, and that sort of thing. So I guess mild spoilers from here on out. But that's what the trailer seems to give that impression of. Chevra, sorry, we had to talk to Chevra. She was one of my favourite characters in New Leaf. But yeah, she, so yeah, that's the kind of impression you get from the trailer. Your mileage may vary. And then mild spoilers from here on out. It's actually quite a bit more involved. How I describe Toy Story 5 is actually it feels kind of like 3 separate plots coming together as one. The plot I got from the trailer is very different actually from what I got. So basically in Toy Story 5, like, this I would say is only mild spoilers. You get spoiled almost about 20 minutes into the movie. There's 3 separate plots going on. There's a one plot, which is actually the A plot. It's not the technology plot I ordered, it's about Jessie's plot, which I'll go into more, but it's about, I would say, reconciling and letting go. And I would say, as if you were to take it into a grand scope of reality, it's like, kind of like parents letting a loved one, let their children grow and watching their children grow up, or anything like that. Anything where it's basically like, the time or relationship you have is of closeness and togetherness being temporary, and then later on it not, wondering how that still affects you. basically is how to describe it in sort of vaguish terms. So that could apply to a lot of things. I think it's most obviously applied to like parent and child leaving sort of dynamic, but it's also, I think, could be applicable to loss as well, in general, or in grief. But I would say it's sort of like just general themes of that, of like having a strong relationship and then wondering what that means once it's gone, essentially. So that's basically the A plot. The B plot is actually the technology plot, weirdly enough. Where it's kind of like split into 2 plots, the B plot. Actually, I would probably say there's 4 plots then. The B plot is Buzz and Woody, brackets for toys, battling Lilypad, the new technology person in the house. And the B and C plot are very closely intertwined, is what I'd say. All the side casts by way of the main characters are completely shoved into a box and basically put aside. They are essentially not relevant throughout the entire thing, which I guess in some ways it's kind of fair. They kind of like had their sort of capstone in Series 3 and Toy Story 3. So it's very much Woody and Buzz sort of show and Lilypad. That's kind of what plot B is about how Lilypad is now sort of like monopolizing sort of the time that Bonnie the child is spending, and how she doesn't play as much anymore and how it's sort of affecting her. The C plot, I think, is Bonnie's plot herself, whereas basically she's trying to make friends and she's having a hard time connecting because all the other friends in her neighborhood use technology, have used the Lilypad equivalent, basically. And she's having a hard time bonding with them with that because she doesn't. She's someone who actually uses play. And there's actually some maybe sub-writing here of, sub-themes, because I often say that Bonnie's just different from the other kids. So I do wonder if there's meant to be something more to that. Like, I don't know, maybe it could be some sort of exploration of neurodivergency, although I wouldn't say it really fits, to be honest. But basically any sort of feeling of otherism. And that sort of feeling of isolation and feeling of being unable to connect, I suppose, with your peers. So that's the C plot. And then there's a D plot, which you get spoiled right at the beginning of the movie, and I was very confused by it. And my friend said it was more like a horror plot, but I don't get that. Or they could see how it could be a horror vibe. But basically, there's a shipment washed up of new wave, new age Buzz Lightyear toys, and they are basically slowly discovering the world. There's like 30 of them. They go around and try and find their home base for Star Command, Star Command, as they say, which is the North Star in the sky. And it basically follows them. And it's got like a, what is happening? Because for a long time of a movie, you're just kind of like, how is this even, this feels so random, this feels like a Disney short or something. But I will say, credit where credit's due, Toy Story 5, so that's like Toy Story 5, there's 4 different plots going on. They don't all get their time to breathe, I would say, to certain extents, because I would say Lilypad certainly doesn't feel as much as a fleshed out antagonist compared to like Lotso from Toy Story 3, or Gabby from Toy Story 4. But I mean, she's literally taking up 1/4 of her screen time and 1/3 of 1/4 of her screen time, so fair enough. But credit where credit is due is that all the plots come together to make a cohesive final plot. I will say, like a final thread, a final way to wrap everything up and put things together. I will say a lot of the story does feel like kind of contrived in a bit, but if you suspend your disbelief, I think it's fine. So I'd say all bets are off from this point off. I could spoil anything. But it's basically, yeah, an anthology of sort of like 4 stories coming together. I guess, where do I begin? I guess I begin with A plot, which I actually think is definitely the strongest plot, following Jessie and a little bit of Bullseye, and then sort of her discovery. She's trying to be like, okay, Bonnie's having a difficult time. You see the C plot is motivating with A plot, making friends. We gotta get her some friends, and it's because all the kids are playing with technology, and we want to make them play with toys. Bonnie gets invited to a sleepover, and then things go awry, and Jessie gets sent like a very long distance away, where she gets found by another horse girl called Blaze. Who likes horses, hence liking Bullseye, and was like, whoa, cool, retro cowgirl. And you see that Blaze also has a struggle where she has a difficult time making friends. So Jessie has seen Lilypad, by the way, at this point, take away Bonnie's time and also take away the chance of her making friends with others. And she's got harrowing warnings from other toys being washed up, being like, oh, technology's invading all our homes and there's no useful toys anymore. But so she's seeing Blaze also have a failure to connect with some friends, and then she sees a way that Blaze like is and acts and is like, whoa, Blaze would be the perfect friend for Bonnie. We've got to make them connect. Now along the way, she runs into Smarty Pants. As an ex-Fawnhallow member. Who basically is someone who is like low on battery and is basically a tech toy, which is going to be a recurring theme, is that there are a lot of the toys that Jessie basically meets a new crew of toys who are tech combined with technology. So something like, say, from the age of 2000s, maybe. Is that kid over there? No, I shove her again. And I would say these tech toys are probably the highlight. I would say Smarty Pants is a fantastic character. I would say not all the jokes landed with me, but the fact that they were fighting an uphill battle, the fact that it's literal toilet humor, and I still found them one of my favorite characters, was really great. I would say. Voiced by Conan O'Brien, which I did not realize at all. I was like, kind of sounds familiar, but I couldn't place it. But voiced by Conan O'Brien. I definitely should have got it from one of the later scenes where he has Conan's hair, but Smarty Pants is a really amusing character. And Jessie at first is all like, okay, I'm only having you because you know where my horse is. They're separated, Jessie and Balls at this point. And you see Jessie's like reluctance to rely on technology, like hatred of technology to begin with. The fact that she doesn't even really want to get new batteries for Smarty Pants, but eventually relents and does, and Smarty Pants sees his old friends in there, who's called Snappy, and I can't remember what the GPS one is called, like Hippo GPS. I'll look it up at the same time. At the same time, she was just going to be like, right, we'll put them back, you know. And then Smarty Pants is fairly outraged, being like, what do you mean? You're just going to lock them in a drawer for the rest of their life? And then you start to see the sort of like, Alice, that's it, the relationship, the parallels she's drawing, that what blazes to Smarty Pants is what Bonnie and all the other kids that came before Bonnie, it was to Jessie. As she's like, oh, you see that sort of moment of realization, so she puts the batteries in because she's like, she doesn't want to do that the same. She knows what it's like to be locked away and not played with for ages. And then they all go, and then you see Jessie slowly start to come over for technology, as probably the most adult joke in the entire Toy Story 5 thing, where she's playing on Smarty Pants this game the entire time, throughout the entire night while they wait. But they send a message to Bonnie, basically trying to reunite them, essentially. Because apparently Smarty Pants, by the way, insane toy which has Wi-Fi capabilities to help you go to the bathroom. Like, it's literally a toilet training toy. Why does it need to have like USB connection to a camera and a GPS? What? It does feel like Smarty Pants was meant to be a different toy. Like maybe something like the equivalent of like a pager or something, or like a low level tech thing, but I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why. I guess they saw a funny opportunity for it to be toilet humor, which is fair enough. Okay. So we try and connect Bonnie, and Woody and Buzz see this at the same time with Lilypad. They're trying to be like, okay, what are we going to do against Lilypad? And they basically take away her battery. But what's interesting, from Lilypad, you can immediately tell Lilypad is an antagonist. She's not a villain. Because her entire thing is very motivated to help Bonnie at the same time. But she basically sees all the other toys as being like really old-fashioned and being unable to help. Lilypad's kind of like, yeah, I'm the one who can actually do it. Look, I made her friends from dance class. Like this, by adding Mum on Lilypad, that's how Bonnie gets a sleepover invite in the first place. And then Lilypad's like, okay, and this, like, you are basically relics of our past. This is what you need to do now to connect with people. So then Bonnie has a sleepover and it goes horribly and that sort of thing. I mean, you can see Lilypad, see how much Lilypad wants Bonnie to actually... That you can see basically Lilypad and the toys have the same motivation, but just have different ways of agreeing how to do it. And you can see Lilypad basically freaking out when Bonnie comes back from the sleepover, where basically the other friends made fun of Bonnie. And played hide and seek and didn't find her in the end. She's basically, Lilypad's freaking out, basically being like, okay, I need to do a software update, I need to get everything, I need to make everything sorted, I need to get everything aligned, I need to find out like what's the hottest trends and everything like that. Because she's like, I need Bonnie to be up to date with these sort of things so she can connect with these peers who are way ahead of her, essentially. Socially. So you can definitely see, it's sort of like, imagine like a really sort of like perfectionist, overachiever sort of person, or like someone who really cares about social clout, just being like, oh my gosh, you know, like, how could I have this minor blip where I'm like slightly behind on times? I mean, you can see that like pretty early on, like if you didn't get it by this point, like Lily obviously cares about Bonnie. You can very much see later on Lily's not going to become a villain, she's going to become redeemed. Because I mean her goals are basically aligned with the toys, she just doesn't agree with how you do it. And then they have a scuffle, Not much of a scuffle, to be honest, because at this point, Lily hasn't really done much, I don't think. But Woody and Buzz are like, we need to go Lily out of a picture, so they unplug her charger, so then she is not charged in the morning. Then it's when they actually start becoming much more antagonistic to each other, I believe. And maybe it's a bit different. I can't remember the timing on it, but at some point, Lily also puts all the toys away in storage. So she like messages the father to be like, put all the toys away in storage in the garage. I don't need them anymore. Which is a truly antagonistic move, but also not the worst, I guess, because they're not like being thrown away or anything. And then Woody and Buzz, they receive a message from Bonnie while Bonnie is sort of like trying to just, Lily's trying to delete it and disregard it, trying to like stay up to date, so Bonnie can actually play these games with these other kids and actually connect to them. But then Woody and Buzz find their AI assistant tool where they go like, hi Lily, hello Lily, you know, like okay Google or Alexa, that sort of equivalent thing. And they send that message out to everybody. So, like literally sharing it everywhere. So then Bonnie would actually get the message, basically. So then Bonnie and the mother go to Blaze to try and get the toys back. And then this is where the C plot comes in. And you see that Bonnie basically gets made fun of by the other kids because they're just like, oh, are these your toys? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're such a loser, basically. Absolutely horribly mean things for 8-year-olds, but... And then Bonnie is so obviously hurt by this. But she's on Lilypad on it the entire time, and then Lilypad sees how much Bonnie is hurt by this. And you can see the sort of turn of face, where Lily goes like, oh no, I've kind of ruined everything. These friends which I've made for her don't like her and hate her, and they don't connect at all. In fact, I've made everything worse. I made her more upset with this connection. But you can start to see from this point onwards where I'm just like, okay, Pixar, you're with me so far. You have a bit more of a nuanced take than I thought you were going to do, rather than technology bad. You just got to stick the landing. Spoilers, they stick the landing, I think. Because you can see, like, Lilypad, the actions she does are not devastatingly bad. She's like, put the toys away, and you can see how Lily is aligned and still antagonistic towards the main cast, and you can see, and I think it's very well foreshadowed, and like it's very believable to me to see Lilypad realize that she's hurting Bonnie because she didn't actually see it before, and be like, I've messed things up. And then you can basically see all you need now at this point is Pixar. You need to have the overall moral being like, technology can be good, technology can be bad. It depends on how you use it, essentially, and how it mixes together, how you integrate it into people's lives, because times change. Which is essentially what the plot is by the end. So, yeah. So Lily basically does the Toy Story equivalent of taking her own life, which is kind of crazy. She basically donates herself while they have a pit stop, while Bonnie and Mom get ice cream. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that they meet up with Blaze, and then Bonnie goes, I don't want the toys anymore. They fail to connect, and Jessie obviously doesn't understand anything which is happening at home, and she goes like, what? They would be perfect for each other. What's happening? And then I think Jessie basically has a crisis or whatnot. And then she goes back to, because Blaze basically lived where her original owner lived, essentially. And it's not actually like a crazy coincidence, because the original owner put her address in. So when Jessie got lost, they sent her to Blaze's house. And obviously the original owner, Emily, doesn't live there anymore. And basically Jessie just has a sort of crisis of faith and goes to the trees. I forget how Buzz and Woody make it. Buzz and Woody hitch a ride with Bonnie together. So everything does like work together quite nice. Like, or you can see all the plots are starting to come together at this point, except for the 50 Buzz Lightyears plot. And then Jessie has like a moment under the tree where she's like, what, this is so sad, like I can't believe it. And then she finds basically a time capsule from her original owner, Emily, and this is the most heart-wrenching thing in the most beautiful way possible. Didn't make me cry, but I would say if there was any moment in this movie which would make me cry, was that. Which Jessie then reads a letter and sees like a birthday card to Emily as an adult to her daughter, and she sees that the daughter is named Jessie. And it was like, oh, despite the fact that Emily gave Jessie away, Jessie still left enough of an impact on her life. She named her daughter after Jessie. And you see that sort of realization on Jessie, and you can see how the sort of parallels go, being like, oh, you can have such a close bond, you can have such fantastic moments in your life together, and then they might not last forever. but you can still see that lasting impact you have on people. Where Jessie was just like, oh, you know, very despondent, like, what's the point of making friends or like caring for these kids if they're just going to give us away, or it doesn't matter in the end. And this is why it matters. And you can see that sort of her faith gets restored. Then Buzz and Woody come, and this is very comedic. There's a load of horses because a horse girl has a load of horse toys, unsurprisingly. At this point also, the 30 buzzers find Woody and Buzz, and it's kind of mostly comedic, if anything. And yeah, they are like, okay, we need to go find Lily, because they're like, okay, we need to send like another message to Lily. And they find out, oh no, Lily has tossed herself away, essentially, because she realized that she basically completely messed everything up for her kid, Bonnie. But they keep in contact with her. They eventually find her using technology, and then they use technology again, where they realize that these new modern buzzers are actually drones, which is hilarious, I would say. I absolutely loved it, despite the fact it's definitely a deus ex machina. They go off and do their plan to basically get Blaze and Bonnie to reconnect again. They basically send a message to Blaze being like, hey, I actually do want my toys back. Sorry, I changed my mind. Which I will say, there should definitely be a thing in here. Like, because Bonnie just shared the address. There should have been something about internet safety, I think, in here somewhere. Or like at least a passing joke or a lampshade of acknowledgement. It was kind of crazy if there wasn't. So Blaze turns up at Bonnie's house, and it looks like it's about to repeat again. Where Blaze is like, hey, I brought your toys, that's what you wanted, and then Bonnie like feels so sad and everything. And then you can see Blaze and Bonnie would be great friends, because Blaze does the same thing which Bonnie did at the beginning, where Bonnie, you know, tried to make friends by like pretending to be Jessie and doing a voice. Blaze does the same thing, and then but you can see Blaze has a little bit more confidence in herself, at least. Probably by virtue of being, I think, about a year older or something. And she goes, oh, sorry, that was weird. I'll leave you alone now. And then you see Bonnie have that change of heart, that reignition, and then you can see that they immediately bond and they have a play date, and it's super cute, and everything is basically fine. Woody goes back to Bo Peep and everything because it only took place over a weekend. And now there's like two families of toys, Blaze's toys and Bonnie's toys, all coming together. Bonnie's made a friend, and then you can start to see that they were starting to make new friends at the end. And Lilypad is redeemed, and Lilypad becomes part of a play session without dominating the play session. So, you know, they have like limited times that she plays, and you can see, the play date's actually really fun because they're animated in a completely different sort of like crayon-y style. And there's like a wedding at the beginning between Sporky and Knifey, I guess is her name, I don't really know. Again, best side characters, you can ignore them, to be honest. And there's a play date later on with Smarty Pants and Snappy and Atlas, where it's like a spy infiltration thing, where they basically show the tech toys what play is. So it's sort of like introducing the toys to tech and introducing the tech to toys and seeing how they come together. Then you see Lilypad's redeemed. She's part of the play system now, where she's basically the piano, so she's playing music for the playdate, so she's enhancing the experience, not dominating or taking away from the experience. And you can also see that, like, the underlying thing, like, they only met because of technology in the first place, being able to connect them. So yeah, there's like a lot of things going on here. Like there's obviously the A plot sort of plot line about, you know, loving someone, letting them go, and seeing like you still have an impact on their lives even if times have changed, basically. The B plot being about the integration, I suppose, of technology into your life, and how you need to have a fair balance of it, as it can enhance your experience if you use it right rather than detracting, but it can also be a very dangerous tool at the same time. Lily is not really much of an antagonist, to be honest. She's not very evil. Like, she's not a Lotso, she's not a prospector in the first one. I don't remember who the antagonist is in 4. She's closer to Gabby, is probably what I'd say. But Gabby was like really not much of a villain. Like, she's set up to be a villain and then she's not really like at all, or something like that. Like she very quickly doesn't become a villain, is what I remember. And then you have a C plot of being like connecting with, you know, the overall vibe of the people who care don't matter, and the people who care don't matter, the people who matter don't care, essentially. Where about finding the people you truly connect with, essentially. With Bonnie and the bullying. And then the D plot of the 50 buzzers actually does have a very nice sort of like discovery moment where they're like, oh, the purpose of toys is like finding the purpose of your life, essentially, is probably how I'd say what the D plot kind of thing is. They have a really nice moment where one of the buzzers gets found by kids, and they're like, oh no, we got to rescue this buzz. And then turns out that buzz is now, oh, the kid's super happy now because they have this buzz. And then they're just like, all right, alley, soldiers. you're doing good. And that's very cute. Like, it's a very heartfelt movie, I think. Like, there's a lot of... It's surprisingly ambitious, I think, for a kid's movie. Not in, but like, I don't think it's narrative over stories it's saying, or like, it's not a crazy take to be like, oh, tech can be good and bad. But I think it's an ambitious storytelling method of having all these plots come together, like as 4 separate strands, and then weave, like start together, fray out, and then weave back together. It makes it quite a satisfying watch, I'd probably say. So I definitely would recommend it. If you like the previous Toy Stories, you'll like this Toy Story, is my assumption. Is it like a home run? Like the best Toy Story ever? No, I don't think so, but it is pretty good. I think, yeah. I like, if they have a Toy Story 6, I think fair enough. I think a Toy Story 6 is more than welcome. It could be something to do with Buzz, to be honest. I don't really know where they could take it from here, to be honest, but like, I think they're doing a pretty good job. I think Toy Story 5 was good. I think it was a pretty like nuanced take for a family-friendly film, right? And yeah, who are my favorite characters? I actually do think like for Smarty Pants and Snappy and Atlas, well, Atlas was kind of like just there, to be honest. I do like Lily Pad. I always have an affinity for robotic characters, to be honest. Jessie was great in this one. I would say Snappy, the voice, I was like, through the entire thing, I was like, who is Snappy's voice actress? I recognize her so much. She is Peridot from Steven Universe, which is why I recognized her. I haven't seen much of Steven Universe, but I do know the voice. And yeah, I think it was genuinely like pretty good. Worth watching. So I guess on that note, I'll go around this episode up here, right? I don't have anything else more to say about it. I enjoyed it. Would I watch again? Yeah, I think it's actually one of the ones I probably would watch again, to be honest. Anyway, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.